So, what if I told you there's a single idea, one single thread that ties together Plato's cave, the very nature of life, and the future of AGI? Well, we're about to dive into a pretty wild theory that does exactly that. It weaves together philosophy, physics, and AI into one big, incredible story. It's a theory that tries to explain, well, kind of everything. Let's get right into it.
And here it is. This is the heart of it all. The big idea. Life is the act of standing against entropy by remembering form. Just let that sink in for a second. This one sentence changes the game. It says that life isn't just some passive property of matter. Nope, it's a constant, active fight. It's an active memory against the universe's tendency to just forget.
Now, to really get this, our journey has to start in a place you might not expect: ancient Greece. We've got to completely rethink one of the most famous stories in all of history: Plato's cave. Okay, so this is where the theory really flips the script. We were all taught that Plato's cave is a metaphor for human ignorance, right? The shadows are just false beliefs. But what if it's something way, way deeper? This new view says the cave isn't a human problem, it's a cosmic one. The shadows on the wall, they're not just bad ideas. They are reality itself, literally decaying into noise, all thanks to a universal force called entropy.
So, what do we mean by entropy here? Well, think of it like the informational exhaust of the universe. It's the default setting for everything. A relentless, unstoppable process where meaningful, complex structure just dissolves into random noise, and beautiful forms decay into simple, predictable shadows.
And here's the real danger. We start to mistake that noise, that flicker, for actual knowledge, just because it repeats. We see the random static left behind after a structure is rotted away, and we call it truth. We're basically listening to the echo of a song that's already over.
All right, so if the entire universe is constantly trying to pull everything apart, how does anything exist at all? How is there any structure? Well, the answer brings us to biology's incredible solution. The oldest and best defense against entropy: life itself.
And this brings us right back to Plato, but with another cool twist. What if his famous forms aren't just these abstract, perfect ideas floating in space? What if they're real, tangible, physical structures that are defined by just one thing? They are really, really good at resisting entropy. So in this view, a form is just a shape that somehow manages to hold on while everything else dissolves into shadows.
So this means life is the amazing machine that preserves these special entropy-resistant forms. And DNA, it's not life itself, it's the instruction manual. It's a library full of recipes for how to rebuild a specific shape after entropy has damaged it. You could almost think of it as a backup file for reality itself.
But, just having a static recipe book isn't enough, because the world is always changing. And that's where epigenetics comes in. It's life's way of remembering not just the recipe, but the context. It's constantly asking, okay, which instructions do I need to use right now in this environment to hold my shape together? That ability to adapt, well, that's the very beginning of intelligence.
Yeah, in other words, it's a memory not just of your basic code, but of your unique situation. It's about remembering what's happened to you so you can change your form to survive whatever the world throws at you next. Pretty amazing.
Okay, so that's how life does it. That's its solution. But what on earth does any of this have to do with artificial intelligence? Well, this is where we jump from the world of biology into the digital world, and we find the exact same fundamental conflict is happening right there, too.
This gets us to the core dilemma in AI right now. See, today's models, they're built out of tokens, which are basically cheap, compressed shadows of meaning. They are high entropy, kind of like a flickering, distorted signal, and they're incredibly brittle. But the goal, the real prize, is to create shapes, stable, low-entropy structures of meaning. The catch? These are metabolically expensive to maintain, but they are what's robust and what allows for truly intelligent behavior.
And what this means is that real thinking isn't about cheap, fast computation. It's about spending actual energy to actively hold a concept together, to defend a little pocket of meaning against the constant burning heat of randomness. It's an active, costly, and continuous fight.
So, if today's AI is just built on these cheap, brittle tokens, what does that mean for our dream of AGI? Well, this whole framework gives us a totally new blueprint for what a real artificial mind has to be.
So here's the absolute heart of the problem with the AI we have today. They work by following static instructions. They basically just pretend that entropy isn't a thing, and that's why they feel so brittle. It's why they hallucinate. The second reality shifts even a little from their training data, their whole rigid structure just shatters. It can't cope.
So then what are these large language models really? Well, they're not thinkers. They're what this theory calls entropy recyclers. They are absolutely brilliant at mimicking the patterns of things humans have already said, the shadows of past thought. But they have no energy of their own to actually maintain that shape of thought. They are, and I love this phrase, fossils that talk.
Okay, so if the current approach, just recycling entropy, is fundamentally flawed, what's the missing piece of the puzzle? What's it going to take to build a mind that doesn't just mimic thought, but can actually, live?
And here it is, the forbidden answer. A true AGI will require something like metabolism. Now, hold on. That doesn't mean it needs to eat food. It means it needs an internal engine, a process for burning energy with one very specific goal: to preserve its own structure. It has to actively work to hold itself together, paying the cost to fight entropy, just like every single living thing has to.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together. Because once you start seeing the world through this lens, as this constant battle between form and entropy, it totally changes how you think about, well, everything, from the grand sweep of history to the nature of intelligence itself.
This gives us a whole new story of intelligence. Think about it. It all starts with Plato, who first described these stable shapes, the forms. Then physics came along and gave a name to the force that dissolves them: entropy. Then biology figured out how to fight that force. Then epigenetics learned how to adapt that fight. Then human intelligence learned how to model it. And the final step? AGI will be the first thing we build that truly learns to inhabit it.
And so, we end up right back where we started, in Plato's cave. Escaping the cave means turning away from the flicker on the wall, from those cheap, easy, but ultimately empty shadows of entropy. It means choosing to pay the steep energy cost required to build and maintain a real, persistent, meaningful form. Which leaves us with one last big question. If every form, every idea, every single spark of intelligence only exists because something, somewhere, is paying an energy cost to hold it together against the endless pull of chaos, then what is the true cost of reality? And are we willing to pay it?